Namaskar, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. You're watching the news with your host Kriti Mishra. In next 30 minutes, I'll take you through news from around the world. First up, the headlines this Tuesday evening. Russia and Ukraine enforce ceasefire to facilitate evacuations. Number of Ukrainian refugees to neighbouring nations exceeds 2 million. Indian students evacuated from Sumy city. India raises issue of humanitarian crisis in Ukraine at the UNSC. Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha to start functioning simultaneously from 11 a.m. in second part of the budget session from 14th of March. Economy gaining momentum again after COVID-19, says Prime Minister Modi, highlights role of key sectors to drive growth. International flight services to start from 27th of March after 2 years of COVID pandemic. Aviation Ministry says travel guidelines will be strictly enforced. On International Women's Day, President Kovind honours 29 women with Nari Shakti Puraskar. Vice President and Prime Minister extend greetings. And let's take a look at other important news of the day in our Flash News segment. India logged 3,993 COVID cases, the lowest in 662 days. 2 special flights to bring back more than 400 Indians from Suchava. Prime Minister Modi praises Kanya Shiksha Pravesh Utsav Abhiyan, calls it an exemplary effort to educate girls. India-China to hold 15th round of Corps Commander level talks on 11th of March. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu urges states to adopt new education policy to ensure a bright future for students. RBI launches UPI 123 Pay and 24/7 helpline for digital payments in Mumbai. Kerala High Court dismisses petition filed by actor Dilip opposing further investigation in sexual assault case. Union Minister Smriti Irani proposes special creche for children of women police personnel at the district level. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman expresses concern over rising crude prices. EU agrees to start examining bids from Ukraine, Georgia and Moldova to join the bloc. Now news from Russia-Ukraine conflict. Civilians fleeing the conflict in Ukraine left the 2 besieged cities of Sumy and Mariupol along safe corridors on Tuesday. Even as officials said, the exodus of refugees from the country reached 2 million. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Zelensky renewed his appeal of enforcing a no-fly zone over his country.
Residents of Irpin fleeing with their family members. People are asking, where is America and Britain? Why are they not coming to save us? Well, that's what Ukrainian President Zelensky has also been saying, asking friendly countries to declare a no-fly zone for Russian aircraft. On Monday, Russia announced ceasefire for the safe passage for refugees, but some designated routes were leading to Russian areas. Ukraine found this proposal highly objectionable. Meanwhile, borders of its neighbours, Moldova, Poland, Hungary and Romania, are flooded with refugees. The United Nations says it is unable to meet the needs of millions of civilians caught in the conflict. UNICEF, meanwhile, has delivered 40 tons of medical life-saving items for 22,000 children and mothers. With 1.7 million people fleeing the country, Ukraine chastised the Russians for not making sufficient humanitarian corridors leading towards Europe. On Tuesday, both countries agreed on a ceasefire to let people leave their homes to safer places. But the question is, when will the people who left be able to return to their homes? Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
And Indian students were evacuated from Sumy city on Tuesday. There are 694 students in the city who were taken to Poltava on buses. Prime Minister Modi had spoken to Russian President Putin and Ukrainian President Zelensky on phone yesterday to impress upon them the need to safely evacuate them. Sumy in recent days has seen fierce fighting due to the conflict.
हमारे एक ही स्थान है, खार्किव से पूरा इवैक्यूएशन हो गया है, पेसोचिन से हो गया है, सिर्फ एक स्थान है, उसका नाम है सुमी। सुमी में इस समय हमारे कोई कल रात को 700 बच्चे थे, पर 694 एग्जैक्ट, मैंने they were already in buses and moving out of Sumi to a place called Poltova, जो सेफ है, फिर पोल्टोवा से आगे लाया जाएगा।
And 17,400 Indian citizens have been brought home so far under Operation Ganga. Ukraine's airspace was closed on 24th of February. Since then, stranded Indian nationals are being brought back on special flights from countries neighboring Ukraine, including Romania, Hungary, Slovakia and Poland.
इवैक्यूएशन बसेस के लिए या फिर हमारी फ्लाइट्स के लिए गवर्नमेंट ने बहुत हेल्प किया, खाना वाना वहाँ पे बहुत अच्छे से प्रोवाइड हुआ है, तो थैंक यू उसके लिए।
नहीं तो 9 दिन अपने बंकरों में रखा हॉस्टल्स के, और उन्होंने वहाँ पे खाना प्रोवाइड किया, तो बहुत सिचुएशन इंकरेजिंग तो नहीं है वहाँ पे, बट स्टिल सम हम निकल के आए हैं। तो यहाँ में हम इंडियन गवर्नमेंट का भी थैंक यू करना चाहेंगे कि उन्होंने बहुत अच्छा हमारे लिए अरेंजमेंट किया बॉर्डर के बाद।
बहुत ज़्यादा हमारे एजेंट्स ने इतना हमारा करा है कि शायद हम अपनी ज़िंदगी उनके लिए पूरी करते हैं डिवोट, उन्होंने हमारा बहुत ज़्यादा करा सर। इनिशिएटिव मैं बहुत ज़्यादा अप्रिशिएट करूंगी, शायद उन्हीं का एफर्ट है कि आज हम लोग यहाँ हैं।
Meanwhile, Putin has said only professional Russian soldiers are carrying out his country's special military operation in Ukraine. He said there is no forced conscription and will not be there in future as well. The Russian president was addressing relatives of soldiers who are deployed in Ukraine operation that started on 24th of February. And earlier, India told the UN Security Council that despite its repeated appeals to both Russia and Ukraine, a safe corridor had not been created for evacuations. India's representative to the UN, T.S. Tirumurthy, said India is calling for an end to all forms of hostilities. He said India is seeking the safe evacuation of all Indian citizens from Ukraine. Heavy shelling and non-stop airstrikes has been thwarting India's efforts to bring back its citizens.
We have also reiterated our urgent demand for safe and uninterrupted passage for all innocent civilians, including Indian nationals remaining in Ukraine. We are deeply concerned that despite our repeated urgings to both sides, the safe corridor for our students stranded in Sumy did not materialize.
And the Ukraine-Russia conflict has triggered a global energy crisis. With crude prices expected to touch new highs, new political equations are also emerging. America is in talks with staunch adversaries, Iran and Venezuela. But things are more complex than they seem. Europe's dependence on Russian oil and gas is not letting US allies take a unanimous decision on banning Russia's oil.
Getting a car tank filled is starting to pinch US customers. A gallon of gasoline is costing 45 cents more since last week, topping $4.06 on Monday. Things are not looking good. Experts predict that at this rate, fuel prices in US will breach their all-time high July 2008 level. The oil crisis is forcing US to explore other options. The White House is in talks with Saudi Arabia, Iran and Venezuela.
The president has already taken steps. Historic release from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, one that's done in a coordinated fashion. And clearly we will continue to have conversations with large oil producers and suppliers around the world about how to mitigate the impact and consider domestic options as well.
However, on the matter of oil import ban from Russia, American allies are not on the same page.
You can't simply close down use of oil and gas overnight, even from Russia. That's obviously not something that every country around the world can do.
The painful reality is that we are still very much dependent on Russian gas and Russian oil. And if we now would force European companies to quit doing business with Russia, that would have enormous ramifications around Europe, including Ukraine, but also around the world.
On the other hand, Russia is also feeling the impact of the sanctions. Evidence of it came from the Russian Prime Minister's stern warning that rejection of Russian oil would lead to catastrophic consequences for the global market, causing prices to more than double to $300 a barrel. Russia has also threatened to close the gas supply to Germany. The European Union gets 40% of gas supply and 30% oil requirements from Russia. Meanwhile, as the concern over oil supply is getting deep, oil prices are soaring. On Tuesday, crude was at $126 per barrel at Brent, and it is expected to go up in the coming days. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
Now all the buzz from business and economy. The Indian economy is gaining momentum after the COVID-19 pandemic, said Prime Minister Narendra Modi at a webinar on financing for growth and aspirational economy. He said this reflected the sound policies of the government and the strong foundation of the economy. Prime Minister Modi added that the union budget had initiated several steps to continue the development at a fast pace.
100 साल में आई सबसे बड़ी महामारी के बीच भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था फिर से गति पकड़ रही है। ये हमारे आर्थिक फैसलों और हमारी अर्थव्यवस्था की मजबूत बुनियाद का प्रतिबिंब है।
Terming the government's decisions taken in the drone, space and geospatial sectors as game changers, the Prime Minister called for efforts to take India among the top 3 countries in these areas.
21वीं सदी के भारत की प्रगति को तेज गति देने के लिए हमें अपने सभी प्रायोरिटी सेक्टर्स में फाइनेंशियल वायबल मॉडल्स को प्राथमिकता देनी होगी।
And moving on, RBI on Tuesday launched a new service to enable UPI payments for non-smartphone users. UPI 123 Pay is a 3-step method to initiate services for users who have less advanced mobile phones. Customers have to link their bank account with their phone to use this facility. UPI on feature phones will help people in rural areas who can't afford a smartphone to participate in UPI transactions. And the government is restoring regular international flight services from 27th of March. The Civil Aviation Ministry had stopped international flights in March 2020 after the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Since July that year, flights were operated under air bubble arrangements with 35 countries. It said that following increasing vaccination coverage across the globe and falling numbers of cases, the government has decided it can start passenger services this month. And moving on, the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha will start functioning simultaneously from 11 a.m. during the second part of the budget session of Parliament from 14th of March. Both houses will use respective chambers and galleries for the members. Officials of both houses held discussions on the modalities in the backdrop of extensive vaccination coverage and substantial reduction in COVID-19 cases in the third wave of the pandemic. Rajya Sabha had functioned from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and the Lok Sabha from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. during the first part of the budget session. And in other news from across the country, Union Minister Bhupendra Yadav and Union Minister Smriti Irani presided over a health and nutritional checkup of women brick-kiln workers and BD workers. Health supplements and Ayush kits were distributed on the occasion to commemorate the Amrit Mahotsav. Haryana Chief Minister Manohar Lal Khattar presented a budget of 1.77 lakh crore for the year 2022-23. He announced Sushma Swaraj Puraskar and Haryana Matru Shakti Udyami Yojana for women. The award will be given to women for significant contribution for their achievements in various fields at the national and international levels. FIRs have been filed in connection with 2,145 incidents of alleged violation of Model Code of Conduct during the Uttar Pradesh Assembly elections. The State Chief Electoral Officer said illegal cash worth 103 crore has been recovered, while preventive action was taken on nearly 32 lakh people. In West Bengal, expelled BJP leader Jaiprakash Majumdar joined the ruling Trinamool Congress in the presence of Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee. Earlier, the BJP expelled him from the party for criticizing the top leadership. The Mohali District Court extended the judicial custody of Shiromani Akali Dal leader Bikram Singh Majithia till 22nd of March in a drugs case. He had surrendered to the Mohali court on 24th of February. Votes were cast amid tight security at 7 polling stations in 2 Manipur districts. The Election Commission had called for a repoll after violence at these polling stations. An estimated 84.90% polling was recorded in the second phase. The ITBP showcased women's power on International Women's Day with videos of women personnel guarding the Arunachal Pradesh border. ITBP Women patrol inaccessible roads, forests and mountains, handling all the duties undertaken by men. Rescue work is underway after a mine accident in Telangana's Pedapalli area. Efforts are on to rescue 4 people, including 2 officers who are trapped. The Meghalaya High Court directed the State Chief Secretary to ensure that illegal mining is stopped without any delay. It also called for the appointment of a committee to implement its directions without political interference. The Mata Vaishno Devi Shrine Board has written to Google to block websites of fake online services after several devotees were duped. The board and the police received complaints of bogus ticket booking by these fake websites. The Horticulture Department organized a 3-day flower and vegetable exhibition at Chandrasekhar Azad Park in Prayagraj in Uttar Pradesh. 5,000 varieties were on display. And coming up after the break, either it's paintbrush in hands or steering wheels, women are breaking stereotypes. Special stories on International Women's Day. Stay with us. The India startup story. Powerful ideas. Dynamic solutions. Innovation, enterprise. Its success and challenges. Packed in a brand new show, The Journey of Startups, only on Sansad TV. Welcome back. You're watching the news. President Ramnath Kovind presented Nari Shakti Puraskar for 2020 and 2021 to 29 women who made outstanding contributions to the empowerment of women. They include 14 awards for 2020 and 14 awards for 2021. Award winners include Merchant Navy Captain Radhika Menon, social entrepreneur Anita Gupta, organic farming tribal activist Usha Ben Vasava, renowned innovator Nasira Akhtar, Intel India Chief Nivruti Rai, Kathak dancer Sayali, and mathematician Neena Gupta. And more on women and their achievements in our world segment. Today is International Women's Day. The day is celebrated to highlight the social, economic, cultural and political achievements of women. It also calls for intensifying efforts for women's equality. Women's Day was first organized as a political event in New York in 1909. In 1921, the date was changed to 8th of March. The theme of the event this year is Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. An all-female artist exhibition opened in London to highlight the lack of representation of art by women historically and today. The Divine features renowned women artists from all over the world.
12 women artists from 9 countries have brought their works for a special exhibition in London's Mayfair. The aim is to bring the focus on the lack of female artist representation within the industry, which is the reason it was launched on International Women's Day. The paintings encompass many styles and genres. There is color, there is depth, there is humor, and everyday scenes in a women's world.
It's amazing to be here representing all these faceless and nameless women who didn't have the opportunity and the chance to express themselves and their talents. To be here for them, for me, they are my heroes.
Just 48% of over 3,000 galleries represent 25% or fewer women artists. 10% represent no women at all. HOFA is pledging female artists will present over 50% of its solo and group shows in 2022. Art collectors say it's a great opportunity for buyers to access female artists and address buyers in their own collections. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
It's a more common sight in India, but Bangladesh is getting used to the idea of women becoming taxi drivers. United Nations funded project is empowering women to take the driving seat and a new career. In conservative Muslim-majority Bangladesh, women are often confined to traditional roles. But Babli Akhtar is one of a few group of young rural women driving change. She is part of a 40-member group of unemployed young women who are learning a new profession as taxi drivers.
তাকিয়ে থাকে কারণ একজন মহিলা যখন রাস্তা দিয়ে ড্রাইভ করে যায় তখন মানুষরা অবাক দৃষ্টিতে তাকিয়ে থাকে মহিলা কিভাবে ড্রাইভ করতেছে
The United Nations say that in this rural region, less than a third of the female population can drive a car. It is frowned upon by societal norms here, but Akhtar is proud of her new role. In a country where nearly 50% women are married by the age of 18, Akhtar's parents are proud of her new challenge and welcome the extra income. Almost one-third population lives below poverty line in Bangladesh, and poverty is highest in rural areas. With nearly 160 million people living in low-lying areas along the Bay of Bengal, Bangladesh is particularly vulnerable to flooding, extreme weather, and loss of farmland to rising sea levels. Which is why making rural people less dependent on agricultural income is a significant objective. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
And in news from across the world, hundreds of Filipino women marched near the presidential palace in Manila to commemorate the 111th International Women's Day and protest the rising prices of oil and other petroleum products. Oil companies on Tuesday imposed another round of fuel hikes in the country for the 10th straight week. The women also expressed solidarity with the Ukrainians during the demonstration with signs that read, Russia-Ukraine crisis, don't make it a reason for overpricing oil. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said his government will restart a dialogue with the Venezuelan opposition after talks failed in Mexico last year. He said he backed a solution on peace through diplomacy in issues of maximum interest. Maduro also said senior US officials held secret meet over the weekend to unfreeze hostile relations. Venezuela is considered Russia's top ally in Latin America. The US said the meeting included discussions on energy security and health and welfare of detained US citizens. A teenager was killed and two others critically wounded after gunfire from passing vehicles struck them outside Iowa school. Police said that potential suspects had been detained in the shooting. No charges were immediately filed. They were hospitalized in a critical condition. A wooden boat carrying hundreds of Haitian migrants ran aground in shallow water in the Florida Keys. 163 people swam ashore and many needed medical attention. The boat tipped sharply to its side near the Ocean Reef Club in Key Largo, not far from where another boat carrying 176 Haitians was stopped in January. The US Coast Guard and other agencies rushed to help the migrants, who included women and children. Heavy rain lashed parts of Australia's most populous state, Sydney. Authorities issued evacuation orders to thousands of people. Police recovered two bodies from the water after a car was found in Stormwater Canal. Australia's weather department warned of life-threatening flash flooding in parts of New South Wales. Sydney recorded up to 4 inches of rain after a long stretch of torrential rain and major flooding over the last 2 weeks. Now all the action from the world of sports. On International Women's Day, let's start with news from Women's World. Favourites Australia have won their second consecutive match in the tournament, beating Pakistan by 7 wickets with 92 balls remaining. Batting first, Pakistan could only post 190 for 6. Australia chased down the target in 34 overs and 4 balls. The first test between Pakistan and Australia, played in Rawalpindi, ended in a draw. Pakistan took a 17-run lead in the first innings, bowling out Australia for 459. With the draw seeming the only real possibility, the Pakistani openers then enjoyed piling up big scores on a placid track. Imam-ul-Haq made his second century of the match, while his opening partner Abdullah Shafiq too did not miss on 100 this time. Shafiq was not out on 136 and Imam on 111 at the end of the test. Let's move to football now. Inter Milan are visiting Liverpool tonight for the second leg of UEFA Champions League. Lest in 16 battle, Liverpool won the first leg in Milan 2-0. Inter hope to turn tables, but that would be difficult against Liverpool, who have been in good form of late and would be playing on their home turf. Another match of the Champions League powerhouse, Bayern Munich, will be aiming to confirm their spot in the next round when they play host to Red Bull Salzburg in their home leg match for the last 16 tonight. The second leg between the two teams is evenly poised, with the first leg ending in a 1-1 stalemate. Veteran Sania Mirza and singles players Ankita Raina and Karwan Kaur were today named in the 5-member Indian Jean King Cup team for the Asia Group competition beginning April 12th in Turkey. Rutuja Bhosle has also kept her place in the side, while Riya Bhatia has replaced Zeel Desai in the squad. India will compete with China, Indonesia, Japan, Korea and New Zealand in round-robin format, where the top two nations will get a chance to compete in the playoffs. Two-time Olympic medalist PV Sindhu and world champion medal winners Kidambi Srikanth and Lakshya Sen will be the top Indian contenders at the German Open Super 300 badminton tournament starting today. The men's singles has 5, while the women's singles has 4 Indians, including Saina Nehwal, in the draw. Sindhu is seeded 7th, while Srikanth is seeded 8th in their respective draws. And before we close the bulletin, a relook at the headlines. Russia and Ukraine enforce ceasefire to facilitate evacuations. Number of Ukrainian refugees to neighboring nations exceeds 2 million. Indian students evacuated from Sumy city. India raises the issue of humanitarian crisis in Ukraine at the UNSC. Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha to start functioning simultaneously from 11 a.m. in second part of the budget session from 14th of March. Economy gaining momentum again after COVID-19 pandemic, says Prime Minister Modi, highlights role of key sectors to drive growth. International flight services to start from 27th of March after 2 years of COVID pandemic. Aviation Ministry says travel guidelines will be strictly enforced. On International Women's Day, President Kovind honours 29 women with Nari Shakti Puraskar. Vice President and Prime Minister extend greetings. Well, that's all we had for you in this edition. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Sansad TV. Namaskar.